Hi, I'm Harlan Emil Gruber, and welcome to Portal to the New Earth. Today, I'm really excited and honored to have as a guest Fernando Vossa. He's an independent biofuturist, Terra Healer, and Artivist. In 2013, he focused on developing a whole body regeneration and quantum access chamber dome home called the Vossahedron. The Vossahedron project is an integration of heart-based wisdom and quantum technologies to establish an architecture that regenerates our body at the cellular level, expands our mental capabilities, and it connects us to higher spiritual awareness. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I guess you could take it from there with more of what we're going to dive into. Really looking forward to this.
Wow, Harlan, it is always surreal to hear somebody read your bio because those of us who have pioneered moving into the space of creating the transportals here on Earth, the architecture that is a scientific instrument and also involving all of our awakening process. I just turned 59 a few days ago, and like many of us, had decided it's time to share all of this to a new generation of young people, right? That want to create with this knowledge. We are the living wisdom keepers and the ancestors. We are the representatives of the indigenous in our blood. So what do you think? We want to dive right into this Vossahedron concept?
Well, yeah, I think though, just because it's interesting, like parallels, you even used the word, which I use for my website, the transportals, that I've
That's
been
where I got
building.
that from your
I've been
book.
I've been building interactive spaces based on my intuition to create these environments, for this evolution of consciousness is how I see it. And then what you've created is very, very much similar parallel things, but you're coming at it from this whole other background, this whole other level in a way that you're extremely adept at interacting with the Earth's interactive energy body. That painting I see behind you, which is in this incredible representation of how the universe and energy flows in the universe, and it was just looking at a diagram of the Sim Harriman's work that was basically the exact same kind of diagram showing this, toroidal flow of all energy and matter. So tapping in at these higher dimensional levels, bringing it here into the third dimension to share with the Earth. So yeah, just dive right in. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that parallels between the type of work that we do. But I'm so excited to hear more about your work.
So let's just take a moment right now to establish a transportal space with each other and everyone participating on this call. In the future, you'll be able to tap into the tele-empathy that's being transmitted here. This image behind me is one of hundreds that I've developed with my partner Akuda in a series of courses we call the holographic human from cell to soul, and the art and science of holofractal creation. And the question we are exploring here as creators, because the invitation today is to go from the default consciousness that most of us are born into, that polarized separation in a way of victimhood consciousness. And then when we go through our awakening process, that accelerated spark of supernova presence, moving into unity consciousness, where many approaches have already been developed, including Buddhism and so forth, where all is one, the law of one, the alchemy of matter between elements. But there's always that part of us as an artist of consciousness that says, okay, what could we expand into beyond unity consciousness is the question. And one of the realms that has been birthed out of this in my life is creator consciousness, the presence of being a living, lucid being who is creating reality, knows that they're creating reality and they're in their creation. And beginning there, it's like taking Maslow's pyramid hierarchy of needs and focusing in on the beam at the top of the pyramid that breaks into a rainbow of infinite bandwidth. And in there, that's where we begin chapter 1 of what we're going to talk about. the creator language is what we are unfolding. So I'm going to share the first frequency that we're bringing in with this. And it's in words, like a mantra. The only truth is what I create. This means that beyond gurus and prophets and religions and scientific bases and all of that is your frequency of what you are bringing forth, right? This image behind me is part of something that I call holofractal or holo-cymatic orchestration, to orchestrate reality. And in there is the exploration we're going to talk about today, Harlan. How do we materialize reality from thought? That's the mission. To create instruments of this body to materialize from our intention, our inner tension, our inner tensorine vortexine of our source. How's that? A mouthful, right? So I'm going to share some images in this exploration. This is all a new presentation that's coming together. So we're going to jump around a little bit. Here I am with the Vossahedron 3D printed model that has been researched for over a decade now. And in creating this model, we're going to work a little bit backwards into how I arrived at this cactus-looking geometry. The intention from the very beginning was to create a seed crystal that would be a free energy device of hyper efficiency and base it on a methodology that I call the creation codex. This is a 12th dimensional mechanism to dial in a stargate. And we can zoom into this a little bit. That creation codex that in itself is a whole class, a whole master class of working with elements, gave rise to this shape, a piece of plastic that I have tested with plasma energy, electricity, sound, magnetism, and the concrete concept that came out of this. This is a cup full of this green Vossacrete that I have been alchemizing, which crystallizes itself. The intention was to create a substance that has aircrete properties, but also has sound imprinting and transitional metals in the concrete. So not only is it an orgonite orgon generator and collector, it is a substance that shields you from HAARP and 5G and MK Ultra and invasive energies, but it also generates a new kind of electric field. It can get tuned to levitate. How interesting is that, right? So this model has been tested with a variety of tools of how energy behaves inside this dome and outside, with laser measurements and water and being able to test the acoustics, the sound reflectors that come through these angles, and the water vibration cymatical properties of this instrument. Not only does it heat and cool itself because of the fractal properties of this shape, it is a 12-pointed star, 6 major points and 6 minor points. So we're going to stop this share for a moment and dive into a little bit of the background of this whole project. The approaches of biofuturism, the future of life, and to take the approach of sustainability, because to many of us, the word sustainability has been co-opted, it's been misdirected, and really jump into this hollow fractional space the sacred space creation. What would it be like to birth your ideas from the cosmic womb, the source of your soul before this universe was created? To bring a language of homeostasis and symbiosis into architecture. But really the architecture of this body right here, this is the first holographic temple. And to take the human that is in this place right now, the technological focus, the artificially intelligent footprint, the virtual cyberspace presence, and play with electric fire and liquid light. Those are the two pillars of this approach. Electric fire is really the understanding of free energy technology over unity. And liquid light is playing with that thought to reality process, the regenerating of the body into a new instrument. This is what I invite us to learn in elementary school, to have this language. At this time when I was doing this project, I was in Baja California. And you're speaking to somebody who has visited over 100 sacred sites around the world, in Peru and South Africa, now here in Southeast Asia, temples and structures that are 250,000 years old. And from there, the pyramids, the monoliths, going to Peru, throughout Mexico and the United States, and bringing that complete breakthrough thinking of integrating the triad of healing the body, structuring the mind, and building a bridge to our ethereal, energetic, spiritual version of us. So yes, a lot of this is imprinting water. Many of the scientists, Harlan, that all of us have interacted with, like Dr. Dan Winner, Professor Emoto, and the geniuses on our trail of Buckminster Fuller, Paolo Solari, George Van Tassel and his Integratron, which I believe is the original transportal in modern times. And having a dialogue with the awakening population of this planet. And if you want to use some mundane language, who is our target audience? Even though those words aren't from us, we're not targeting anything. This isn't a mission. We're not prioritizing anything. The awakening population of this planet, who are going through the ascension process of their body, their mind, and connecting to spirit. Harlan, this is the people we're inviting to play, right? This project began with the configuration of the center of mass creation. This is about 15 years ago. The actual laboratory and site that we want to play in. 12 laboratories that are temples, each one focused on a particular energy, the plasma, the light temple, the water temple, the sound cymatics temple, the crystal structure, the integration spaces to be able to mix and match these approaches. If you want to mix crystal energy knowledge with light and sound and magnetism and gravitizing and learning how to play with the creator elements and having libraries of biomorphic and biomimicry technology, 3D models that are living resident spaces that you can stick your head in. And also having a type of definition of the awakening process, the many stages that we already know we go through beyond understanding red pill. We don't need to be red pilled anymore. But let's create a whole new platform of awakening. I studied many sites just in Mexico and in the United States with this kind of Mediterranean desert climate. At the same time, I was testing and building actual technology instruments that you can go to YouTube and see the prototypes of these instruments to create cymatic patterns in the body, to be able to generate fields that we can play with. So not just resonating water and salt and Chladni plates, but also an integration of laser projection on the body. What does it look like to see your own thoughts? And integrate this with cactus, right? The true, to me, the masters of quantum tunneling in nature. So at the same time I was doing my psychedelic research in plant medicine at the time, and I want to share with our audience right now, I have been free of substances for 18 months now. So no more weed, alcohol, no more ayahuasca, San Pedro, Salvia divinorum, peyote, being able to go into mushroom journeys. I've been through all of that now. This is the beauty of being this age. I'm in crystal clarity. But in these structures, asking the questions of how these beautiful beings are quantum tunneling through space and time, they're materializing from consciousness. So there's a whole library of research that's come out of 2 decades of this work, this creation. Part of this is also off-world interaction, trans communication, a telepathic transmission that is also reflected in all of the beautiful crop circles. Some of these appeared at the same time the Vossahedron was being developed. So there was no mistake of not only the work that was happening in my life, but the network and constellation of researchers that I connected with and still are in contact with, including you, Harlan, and your beautiful Burning Man installations. Could we establish sacred space that generates this, and we step into these fields so that our body water creates a new kind of cell mitosis, and we can do designer genetics in these spaces so that we can outfit and instrument our lives to be able to speak in these tones? The answer is yes. And this is the very first extrusion I did of the Vossahedron shape out of the flower of life. This was about, I'm not sure how old this is or young, but I did 2 extrusions, one with the straight up pyramid and the other one is the curved shape, using the simple templates. And the 3D models that came out of this were resonant in themselves. That means the wireframes were showing me all of the proportions and ratios and the language to create a new kind of thought in our bodies, a temple of thought, a laboratory to teach us how to think in multi-dimensions. And one creator principle I will share that has come out of this work, creator-creatress principle, is that creators speak in infinities. When we express an intention, it comes out or in as an infinite number, an irrational value. So this work kept going on and on, hand building these shapes, truly understanding, being intimate with the geometry. How many flat shapes does it take to build this dome? What is the least amount of curves and turns to come up with this shape? And these are some of the early experiments into this. This is a 60-foot version of this dome. And in architecture, you know, when I was doing this 15 years ago, to talk about portals and to speak about this as an instrument was still very ahead of its time. I kind of had to sanitize this language and turn it into a house. It's like living in a telescope to explore inner space, but present it as a eco project, right? Because to understand fractality, how do creators fractalize? And this is a creator principle. How do we fractalize non-existence into existence? How do we create a branching out from our word, from our presence, from our thoughts, from our breath, so that it mycelially replicates and branches itself like lightning to have increased surface area? This is one of the many architectural principles of going from one seed shape into a fractal that has infinite surface area. And these building plans give us a technology that has 90-degree angles pointing outwards and 60-degree angles pointing inwards. This is a coherence filter. When you have noise and chaos coming from the outside world interacting with this shape, they get reflected back out. See, right now we live in boxes that have 90-degree angles pointing inwards. That's reflecting the chaos back to you. What the 60-degree angles do is they create an inversion of the chaos, of the entropy, and seed coherence. They seed a crystal lattice, like being in that beautiful cymatic pattern I mentioned. So this is a two-story version of the Vossahedron made with this green concrete. Green, the color, that specific frequency, has to be carried through the concrete, through and through, not just painted on the surface. It has to be a green, aquamarine emerald tone, because the cactus showed me while on San Pedro what that means. What is that life chlorophyllc transformation of energy, sunlight into life? How does it filter? Because cactus aren't surviving, they are thriving. Perforation is the aperture of Brahma at the top of our fontanella in our skull. Gets replicated through the first floor down to through the furniture. And the windows are hexagonal, they're lenses. They are a stacked instrument that you can change colors on those windows, take a filter and apply it, and play with different kinds of light coming in at different times of the day. So this is an image, a rendering of us looking through the skylight. And this 12-pointed star that has a large and a small triangle, the ratio between those two triangles is the square root of 3. The famous hidden triangle that you shared with me, Harlan, that we're going to talk about in a little bit. The way this particular shape tracks the sun over a year fractalizes sunlight. It divides it up, if you want to look at it that way, into equal parts of heat and cold, light and dark, charged energy and not charged energy, particle, antiparticle, negative and positive space. But it's not a perfect division because as you've covered with other interviews, we are not dealing with perfect symmetry here. It's an imperfect balance, wanting to achieve perfection, like falling through the atmosphere, but you never actually land. That's the free energy aspect of it. And this dome, this shape was envisioned as a light ship. traveling through space. I got to see that floating as a molecule in front of me. So this shape is supposed to, in future versions, be a levitating device that won't be touching the ground. So let's say version 3 of the Vossahedron will be a magna-lev device with inverse gravitics, not really anti-gravity. That's not really the approach here. It's a floating crystal. All right, we're going to stop the share for a moment here.
Wow.
Have a little dialogue before we go to the next fun disclosure here. This is what I would love to share in junior high for students. Just this kind of knowledge, right? To take what we call trigonometry, to take what we feel as physics and turn it into the physics of consciousness, right? To begin with the big five, Harlan: water, food, energy, regeneration, healing of the body, and housing. And I really have 12 principles, but the first 5 are really what we want to begin with. If we had kids graduating from junior high, knowing how to build their own homes, how to harvest their own water, how to generate their own electricity, how to heal their own bodies, and how to build and create this in food generating for themselves, that would change a whole new generation, right? We're both in tune with this. And to set up creative briefs, this means the creative direction for projects at the highest levels. Like, how do we materialize reality from thought at the center of mass creation, which is you? That would be fun to start with. So our teams that have looked at this project, participated in all these designs, the concrete testing and so forth, begin with this creative direction. Just like the beautiful portal that you created in the last Burning Man. I love that space. The collaboration, the energy, the intention touched my heart. So you ready to explore a little science behind this?
Yeah, for sure. And, first of all, the fact that you've developed this kind of material that's like this aircrete but organite, and then the color green is pretty interesting because that does parallel, the first portals I made, which I was aligned to make it that very chartreuse green, which ends up being a heart chakra color, but also, like you say, connected to plants. And there's something about that energy and vibration of that color. But the fact that you're, what you're building is more of even a living space, or at least, permanently installed spaces. So yeah.
I haven't really answered the question because I haven't built a full-scale model, and this is what's coming up next. The biggest model that I've built is a 3-foot Earth model. That in itself showed me a lot. But now it's time to do this. I stepped away from my own project for a while for many, many reasons that all of us live through: the logistics, the team, the funding, the timing, the disclosure, because anytime someone presents an disruptive solution to the world, there is an equal reaction from reality. And 15 years ago, it wasn't easy to present at a university level this consciousness. It wasn't easy even in dialogues with Michael Reynolds and the Cal Earth Institute to talk about consciousness and materializing reality from thought. We were just right there looking at the eco-building principles, right? But we have to have the steps to get into this. And many of us already know that every single civilization that we study, ancient Egypt, ancient Samaria, ancient Mayan technology, there are always crazy dome builders amongst them. The Imhoteps, the George Van Tassel's, the Buckminster Fullers that are just making trouble left and right. Even in the pyramid days, there were dome builders being shut out. Nobody wanted to talk to because they were crazy shamans of architecture. Well, we've landed, right?
Right. And I just want to mention, because you just threw out the Michael Reynolds, who most people might not know, he's the founder of Earthships, the so much sustainable type of way of creating living spaces in Taos, New Mexico, who I lived in Taos for a while. I think you were in New Mexico. And you mentioned Cal Earth, which was developed by the architect Nader Khalil.
Nader Khalil, beautiful work.
Yeah, part of Southern California Institute of Architecture. And he had this concept, which is now turned into these earth dome super adobe. And who I know Human Fazli, who's kind of continued that work, and there's a bunch of them out here in the Joshua Tree Desert. So just to complete these quick things you threw out there, just for people who are listening, like never
each
heard
one
of
was a breakthrough in thinking.
Exactly.
Each one opened a dimension of thinking.
And you mentioned Buckminster Fuller, and he developed the Dymaxion house back in in the 40s, based on the same technologies being used to build airplanes quickly. And he was completely shut down by architecture and building industry because it went against the practices and threatened their practices. So ideas like this often are not promoted at all and suppressed. But
we're in a different time now.
Yeah. So great, which is exciting, which is why we're having this conversation right now, and people are going to get to see this. So yeah.
All right.
Keep going.
So I want to share a little bit of the intention here. Going into our current bodies. If we were to view the body in one dimension as a collection of brains, we have the brain in the nervous system, the brain in the skeletal system. Those are the crystal structural thinking areas. And then we have a muscular brain, which is kinetic and thinks about motion. And then we have the endocrine and lymphatic brains that have thought that has to do with neurochemical transmissions and signaling. And then we have the connective brains of our tendons and ligaments and our joints. And then we have the skin brain that has the sensitivity to the transmission between the inner verse and the outer verse. And then we have on and on and on. It goes on, the breathing brain in our lungs, the alchemical wizard brain in our liver, and the thinking brain of our digestive system. All of those are what we acknowledge here. And when we look at long living structures on Earth, like trees that are alive for thousands of years, and learning from that as a temple of thought that has a different kind of mind to access. Something happens in our bodies during this awakening process. These different brains integrate in a new way. When we ask about cannabinoid receptors in our body, we're not speaking about smoking weed. We're talking about a spiritual dendrite temple at the end of our synapses. And when we think about the energetic patterns that are alive in our body, the different cymatic fields of emotion and thinking and transformation, those have a shape. It's a kind of temple also. And it can get very abstract at times as multidimensional beings. With our current imaging technology, we are revealing these fractal structures in our nervous system, in our brain, that show these pathways of circuitry that in themselves have embeddedness and fractality. And when we look at the membranes of the brain and the intestines and the organs is that infinitizing. It's a process that is active. To infinitize self is to grow the universe, to increase the surface area of a god, goddess being, to touch more energy. So all of these approaches that I'm sharing give rise to a new kind of language of light. To speak in color is one dimension here. This is a color cube. It just happens to be a 17-point resolution, meaning the way we can represent a color space and move through it with different values and be able to speak in color spaces at any granularity, any resolution. And as I said, creators, creatresses speak in infinities. We move from one version of any energy, whether it's light or sound or crystal or magnetic or plasma, and we infinitize it. We take the initial presentation and keep defining and expanding and fractalizing it so that it becomes infinite. This is one illustration I came up with here. And part of my background is studying Black Project technology. I came out of that world, artificially intelligent systems and quantum technology in B-2 bombers and stealth technology. Imagine a human that has healed themselves and now is applying this with consciousness and love and abundance and compassion. This illustration is to quickly bring into your body this knowledge of crystallizing thoughts in infinite color spaces. This illustration is a hologram that describes holocymatics. These are the creator elements of plasma, electricity, crystal, water, magnetism, expressed as different cymatic shapes of hydrogen and helium and increasingly more complex cymatic patterns to generate entire sections of universes. How would we create an instrument that tunes your body and your mind consciousness into having complete creator thoughts that are hundreds, if not millions and billions of light years across? And what if these thoughts were realms? A creator creatress that speaks in infinite realms. And every time we have an idea, it might look like a living version of these images. Think of this as a beam of light that you're looking at the cross section of it, traveling through space. And light does not necessarily move as the way we've been taught, that it has a particular speed from here to there. It is a quantum tunneling presence, an Einstein-Rosen bridge of superpositioning. Our thoughts are that. They superposition and entangle immediately through the entire universe. And what if we could see these throughout our body? Our cells themselves would be tuned to resonate, that in multiples of resonant harmonics, meaning your cells are vibrating in a way that harmonically are multiplied into faster than the speed of light frequencies. And I know this is a mouthful in one sentence, so go back and listen to this again when you get an opportunity. And in the implosive mechanisms in our lungs and in our hearts, I've collaborated on several conferences with Dr. Dan Winter and the phase conjugate implosive mechanisms in consciousness physics, where what is happening in what we call the brain is generating slices of universes. The vision, we have the capacity to envision as creators new segments of star filaments in space that grow the universal body, that expand self-realization. To self-realize is to expand the universe. And there are many instruments that we can bring online, we can design for ourselves. And in this case, we're talking about spherical lensing of light, most recently seen by the James Webb Telescope. The ability to look through space and experience galaxies that are beyond what telescopes can see, but our body can see, because the universe does not filter or censor itself. And how would we express this in a stargate that we can dial, turn the rings like tumblers in a mechanism? This is the creation codex. The Vossahedron, that 12-pointed star, is in the middle of this. You're looking at a slice of a molecule that has spherical orbits of photons and electron paths with a particular set of intentions. And this particular configuration, the way it's dialed, is what I dialed it to. This would be a whole nother class, a whole nother teaching mechanism, how to play with resonance and come up with combinations of earth, light, sun, plasma, crystal, DNA for expansion. And it has millions of combinations. The size of those circles, creating different embedded Vesica Pisces, if we were to study and apply quantum computing mechanisms to this, we would look at the frequencies and the scale changes between DNA, solar systems, galaxies, bodies. This is the basic two-dimensional version of this 12-dimensional approach. And what comes out of this is an emergence. If you want to say it's an emergent property of consciousness that I call right now the 13th harmonic. This is where we want to play, 13th harmonic thoughts. Just to see the purity of this shape. 12 circles, 6 major and 6 minor, with the square root of 3 being the proportion, the ratio between them. This is Tesla's 3-phase circuit of radiant earth battery technology. This, to me, was an extension of the flower of life that I personalized for this project. And we're back to the cactus. We're back to organic intelligence. This is what's happening in the heart. The implosive gravity wave that pulses these longitudinal waves through the genetics of our body. Our body was designed to quantum tunnel. Our cells are able to time control and to materialize reality, meaning we speak to matter with this presence. This is what the Vossahedron project is about, to create an instrument that we can go into to tune our bodies and minds, to create a new kind of lightning fractalization at the cellular level of our brain. That means those filaments around our cells and the zona pellucida of our cells. This is the membrane that is in the interstitial fluid floating through our inner space. This is where it's happening. And it's expressed in all life on this planet. This is a jellyfish. It's a living cymatic revelation of thought. This is a symbiotic shape-shifting being that is able to liquefy its mind, if you want to look at that, to change its anatomy into liquid, plasma, electric. It becomes a gravity wave, a living expression of the language of God, Goddess. Wouldn't it be great to learn this early in your life? How are we doing this? How is the sky and the earth communicating with each other to create life? This is one of the holographic illustrations of crystallizing thoughts, to have a library of thought realms, to have direct divine natural access, DNA, in our bodies, so that we can configure, if you want to say it, and transmute alchemically geometry into cymatic patterning. This illustration is part of our holographic human course. Because geometry is an expression of form that shows us how vector equilibrium, how these symmetries can give rise to these cymatic frequencies that speak into form. How granite and sandstone at Machu Picchu and at Chichen Itza and at Adam's Calendar in South Africa and at Angkor Wat are the genetic storehouses of the indigenous. These temples were around a lot longer than the Inca, before the Maya, before the Khmer, was the temple builders that had this knowledge. And to be able to fractalize our genetics, when you hear about 12-stranded DNA, 144-stranded DNA, this is an illustration I developed to be able to show how our thoughts move through space as holofractal orchestration. That means what you're doing in this life is seeding universes. We are voxelizing space. A voxel is a pixel. This is what you would see in your first eye inside the Vossahedron, without drugs, without plant medicine. When you stop this for a moment, give us a little bit of a breath.
Great. That was a lot of amazing information.
It's like very condensed and accelerated.
I know. It's so cool, though. I love that you have all those images to communicate all this stuff, and just really, really a great presentation. It's really in depth. Very cool.
I want to share with our audience that there are humans right now standing on Earth with you that are building these transportals, these sacred spaces. We're designing them and sharing how to do this. I have no intention of taking anything to my grave. Everything I know is going to be seeded somehow, some way. Because the new civilizations, the new cities, the new urban landscapes that we are going to create are for ascension, are for an ascended way of being, so that we increase the bandwidth of our senses. We can see a greater bandwidth of color. We can hear the sound of creation in the galaxy. And we're not going to find this in 5G. We're not going to find this in AI. Because what we are exposed to this very year, Harlan, people our age got to see what it's like not to have a cell phone, not to have the internet. It's a privilege to have listened to music that was recorded in analog vinyl. That right now is going to be a breakaway society here on this planet. Those who want to travel organically with natural intelligence, and those who want to pursue the artificial intelligent approach. I've done both. So there's a third vector that we can unite and integrate and expand from of these two approaches, because creators do not polarize anything. We don't talk about either or. We always integrate and create something brand new.
Yep, that's
right?
awesome. Totally.
In the creation of the Vossahedron, we bring in this alchemy into every aspect of creating it, of building it. The recent revelation I had, I want to share with everyone here. That one of several laboratories, this is in the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, with this quantum tunneling revelation that in these lattices, and these are images that are smaller than electron microscope, these are the atomic level lattices. Imagine we are living in a time where we can see the atomic structures live. If you look at the zoomed in, you're looking at the six-pointed star, and this is happening in the beryl cactus, which are the emeralds, the aquamarines. And when we look at the abstract geometry that's occurring in these assemblies of silica, oxygen, beryllium, and aluminum, they are forming these 12-pointed stars. And we're looking at a slice of something that is multidimensional.
I'm going to have to pause it right there, because right when you brought up that picture and you said when we looked at these abstract geometries, it cut out until you came back with the multidimensional. So I don't know
When
how
we look at what are these base elements of salt, sodium, oxygen, beryllium, and aluminum in the beryl cactus, in the beryl crystal, this interaction of 12-pointed structures. And we look at the imaging, these are the 12 points present in the Vossahedron. Here's a stack of these molecules so you can see that we're talking about a multidimensional space. And here is an X-ray diffraction pattern generated by pointing a laser into a beryl crystal and seeing the refraction points. When I saw this, I knew that the Vossahedron was doing this in your body. Here's what the beryl crystal looks like in aquamarine. A six-pointed hexagon. This is more with the emerald tinting. And here are these structures. And there are 3D models that you can spin and rotate online to examine these structures. And what these research found is that water molecules inside the beryl crystal structure is being reflected, mirrored 6 times, so that water molecules are in a quantum tunneling state. That's saying a lot. What if your body, your water, could be inside this 6-phase reflection? What kind of thoughts would you have? Here's an image of butterfly eggs on a leaf that are doing this. The same lattice. We're playing with the square root of 3, Vesica Pisces, opening of Brahma, the aperture of the womb, the birth of you. And we're taking these Euclidean proofs, the Euclides geometries, and here is the Vossahedron overlaid with the beryl crystal X-ray refraction pattern, showing the presence of those beautiful petals that are generated inside the 12-pointed star. It's revealing to me what the cymatic pattern may look like. And X-ray diffraction patterns don't show the full cymatic field. They're just showing a sampling of points. This is looking into multidimensional space. So I'm going to stop here. So now I have in my hand several studies from different scientific physics, quantum mechanics, live testing. I'm no longer a metaphysical being saying, oh, we can materialize reality from thought. We are now at a time that did not quite exist when I started 20 years ago. When anybody, if I get up and speak at a conference, at a university, or an architecture forum, or a physics, we have now many instruments that show us all of the spiritual principles we knew all along. This is a new time, Harlan. We're no longer crazy, is what we're saying. So those who say, well, you know, I'm into architecture, I'm into bioarchitecture of eco-building, but I'm not sure what you're talking about with this quantum tunneling and being able to teleport, to be able to time travel, to create new genetics. That's still a leap for people. It's just a lot of distance to cover. But the forefathers of this, Tesla, Walter Russell, Buckminster Fuller, knew exactly what was happening intuitively. You look at their drawings and they're showing us this is how you build a light ship, the propulsion system of life, the transportal spaces, right? So I am dedicating today's sharing with you, Harlan, to all the visionaries, all of the pioneers, and those young artists right now that are saying, OMG, Vossa, Harlan are speaking my language. Come home is what we're saying. You are home. You're not alone. We get you. We see you clearly. We want to create with you. And we love you.
Yes, absolutely. What incredible vision. And, you know, like you dedicate this to all these visionaries that I've been studying my whole life, you know, that their work, they've been doing it for many years. And right now it feels like the time has come. And of course, we're having this conversation in May of 2023. Hopefully lots of people will watch it right away. But I also feel like what we're doing right now is setting the groundwork for this, which is really the time has come for this type of work to be embodied and manifested here on Earth. And it's so great to be, having this conversation right now and be putting it out there to all these young visionaries that we want to inspire that are on this frequency. So yeah, this is really important.
Consciousness and awakening and ascension is a thing, and it's real, and it's physical and mental and energetic. I shared with you earlier on Facebook a recent project with using the Unreal game engine and several AI tools to bring to life Moshe Safdie's Habitat 67 project that he created in the 60s. This is this modular pyramid of open space in high density. And he built this for an expo in Montreal, or I forgot the Canadian.
Yeah, I think so. No, and
Toronto, I forgot
some
exactly.
images so people could see it right now. Because
you can download the model.
Yep.
And luckily, Professor Safdie of Safdie Architects is still alive with us. And there are many mentors that I wish I had the opportunity to meet in person. Buckminster Fuller would have been amazing to meet in person. Jack Fresco, the Venus Project, I would have loved to meet him before. We only had communication through the phone and his team. Paolo Soleri of Arco Santi is another one. Young people, I'm saying to you, as somebody who has been in this for a long time, take the prompting opportunity of AI, Midjourney, and CPT-4, and all these different tools that are still baby steps right now. They're just coming. Take all of the dark agenda that you hear about of AI, whether that's true or not, concern ourselves with creating through that and showing these platforms what organic thinking is like. What natural intelligence that is quantum, meaning multidimensional, what does it look like to go beyond text to speech, text to video, and go right into decree to reality? AI is not there yet. It has barely any concept of what we're speaking about, because it would have to go through a self-realization awakening. And the reason why I bring this up, because the earth has changed right now, this year, with the birth of these tools. And the only thing I'm interested in doing with any of this is to birth free energy on this planet, to birth biofuturism, to show the ancients what's happened at Angkor Wat and other places before the Ice Age, where the master builders left a legacy. This is the invitation. We are in a different reality right now.
Yep, the new Earth is coming about. It's palpable. There's been a lot of upheaval and chaos, and we're here to focus on this new model that's making the old model obsolete, as Buckminster Fuller would say. So
Yes.
This has been really incredible. I'm so honored and grateful to have this conversation and hear and learn in depth all of your work, and then put it out there on Portal to New Earth. So of course, we'll have links in the description for this. Is there any other, closing statements or things that you want to share so people can follow up, connect with you, connect with this project more? So, yeah.
The Center of Mass Creation is now being assembled as a full project. This includes the first version of the Center of Mass Creation, the first of 12 temples, is the Vossahedron structure, which is the first C geometry that has come through me, but it's not the only one. There are several other geometries that are ready to be birthed. And we are inviting audience participants to contact me, sharing with Harlan links to email me, to also make a private call with me. If this excites you and say, I want to be on the Vossahedron team, I would like to be part of this platform, because I know there are many right now watching that have their own vision, their own dream, and they would love to have the surrounding community of science and research and people who have touched this for real to come together to collaborate. This is the invitation. So I'm going to leave with a mantra that you can repeat to yourself. I am the center of mass creation. I am an engine of mass creation. I am the center of mass creation. I'm an engine of mass creation. I'm the center of mass creation. And as you're repeating that to yourself, every time you say it, come up with a third new image of what it means. I am the center of mass creation. What does that look like? I'm an engine of mass creation. What is that like right now? And keep doing it thousands of times and create thousands of thoughts.
Yep,
because that's the birth of this.
It's true. Holding these visions and these thoughts is the foundation to bring this all about. So this has been so great. I'm so grateful again. And thanks for joining us. All that info will be in the description to be sure to be able to get in touch with Fernando Vossa on this. And really appreciate everyone watching this. And of course, remember to subscribe and like and share this with other people you think be interested. And so we'll see you in the next portal to the new earth. Thanks again.
My gratitude to you, Harlan. Welcome to the portal to the new earth. This light ship has landed.